Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it's Friday night. There are 8 games on this NBA slate for you guys. In this one, we're taking a look at the Mavs and the Lakers. They are in in LA. You're going to want to look at the injury reports for that one. Make sure you know who's playing in this game tonight. But we'll dive into all of that. We also got another game video up for you and our player props. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also head to thelines.com. The NBA is in full swing on the site right now. Plenty of great content. Also, obviously, plenty of March Madness as well. I'd be remiss to say second best day of the year now on Friday, right, as this tournament continues on. So make sure you check out everything we have for you up there. Also have the odds finder tool up there on the site. You can use that to make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all these US sports books that are giving us bets in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get through this slate for everyone real quick and then talk about this Lakers and Dallas game in LA.
Sixers looking to stay hot, -10 at Charlotte. Golden State +4 at Atlanta, trying to buy a win here. Draymond is suspended for technical fouls. Steph looks like he's going to play. Total is 248 out there in Atlanta. Washington +6 at Cleveland. The Memphis Grizzlies -9 at Spurs. Pelicans -5 at the Rockets, who've been sniping people lately. Wolves +2.5 at the Bulls in a game with only a 224 total. Celtics -5 at Portland, 230 total. We break that game down for you. And then the Mavs are +6 at Lakers. Total was 224 a little bit ago. It is now 227 as the expectation is starting to rise that maybe Kyrie and Luka are going to return tonight. The latest injury report still has Luka listed out, Kyrie questionable, but apparently both practiced on Thursday. And Jason Kidd is being a little coy in terms of their status here tonight. Certainly that's going to affect the total more than anything. I mean, it's also going to affect the spread, though. I mean, I think Josh would be all over +6 for Dallas if they've got both their guys here. Because you see it a lot, right? I mean, the young guys then come get a ton of confidence being the 1A, 1B option. I'm talking about Jaden Hardy and Josh Green specifically. And then they get to settle into supporting roles if those guys are back. And all the stats you see about Dallas not being able to close or win games in the early part of the Kyrie era, they might start to shift a little bit because you've got a supporting cast now. And Josh Green playing very well, playing very efficiently. Jaden Hardy has been playing very inefficiently, but stepping into that scoring role without Kyrie. And there's a correlation when these teams get together that if the Mavs win, it is actually a higher scoring game, which is against their MO in the pre-Kyrie era here. But the last 3 wins over the Lakers have averaged 237. AD missed all of those. And then he came back a few weeks ago and the Lakers won a low scoring game, 111, 108. AD had 30 and 15, was +16 in his minutes there. So I do think there is still a correlation if you want to take Lakers +under. You might even want to tease it just to be safe here, to get them at -2 and 231 under, just in case, we get either of those star guards back and then all of a sudden we're talking a lot more offense. But Dallas was starting to shift before the injuries here. I mean, I guess it's probably because Luka was limping through some of these games, but their defense was no longer a joke. I mean, they were limited. They had a 104 defensive rating against Utah. And that game did manage to go over down the stretch, or actually 236, I think was a push basically. But it was played at a 110 pace. And since then, their pace has really dipped back down to where it was pre-Kyrie levels, easy for me to say. Yeah. And the Lakers are when they're at home, they're going to exert their will. They've gone under in 7 of their last 8 at home now. They've been going under consistently before LeBron got hurt, and without him, they are much more dependent on defense. We're talking allowing just 108 points per game in those 8 home games, pace slightly below 100. Holding opponents to the 5th lowest 3-point percentage, but allowing the 4th most attempts. Do with that what you will. I don't know if that's a lot of missed open looks, but it's probably a lot of rangy defenders closing out right now that you've got Jared Vanderbilt, Beasley, right, and Wenyen Gabriel getting more consistent minutes. It's just a lot harder to to torch the Nets on these Lakers than when you had Russell Westbrook running around like a chicken with his head off in the early part of their season. Their defense far less of a joke. And the free throw discrepancy is going to be key, as always, for the Lakers and for AD. But it's not just the AD show recently. They are getting the ninth highest assist rate over since the All-Star break here. They are crazy. I mean, they're not on 2 days rest, but AD is. And you look at them, they're 8-4 against the spread and 8-4 to the under when they get 2 to 3 days rest. So with their main guy going on a little extra rest, there is that strong correlation again. And they've gone under in 4 straight when they're actually favored without LeBron James, which is, a consistent trend since mid-February when he had to sit. So, I mean, you got to worry about the Mavs offense, certainly, if they don't have either of those guys. They just lit up the Spurs, but, I mean, what does that really mean in overtime? But Memphis shut them down. I mean, again, holding Hardy to like 38% field goal shooting as the number one option is probably not going to get it done at LA.
Yeah. Hardy, man. Yeah, no, you're right. Love that dude. But it's all about if they play. I just hit it and was in the Lions Discord chat as well, just being like, do with this what you will, but like 5.5. If both those guys played in practice yesterday, are tied with the Lakers in the percentage, win percentage column for a play-in spot right now, and J Kidd refused to say that they're not playing. Like, I don't know, at least one of them's got to play, man. Like, and if that's the case, I don't know that it makes that big of a difference. I think you still get more offense with at least one of them. That's obvious. Not to mention neither of them being world beaters on defense. But if they don't, then even these games that they played without either of them in the last 3, like those Memphis games, obviously no Ja. And then no Kairuka. So obviously those were super low scoring. And then that San Antonio game was like, whatever, they were down and about to lose that game for the entirety of it. And then forced it to overtime and it came back and won. Christian Wood hit a bunch of threes, which was crucial for them. And will have to be tonight. But I don't, it's just 2 different bets. If Kairuka's in, it's an over. And I mean, I would not necessarily like them to win. I would be very interested to see if they get ruled in, how that affects this spread. Like, does it go all the way down to a pick 'em, or do they get favored by like 3 or 4 points? Like, probably should be if they're both in, because I know they suck at defense, but like, come on, man. You've got, I don't know. At that point, it's AD versus those two. I know it's on the road, but that doesn't necessarily mean much. I think it does go a bit under.
Don't you disparage this Lakers supporting cast. Okay? I just said it's not the AD show anymore.
You did say that, but when it comes to getting enough offense and the ability to stop those two while being able to outscore them at that point, needing like probably 118-ish points to beat them, I don't know. I don't necessarily like that quite as much for you, but for them. But right now it's at 220, like 226, right? 226 and a half is mostly what you're finding for this total. And that's probably too high if neither of those guys play. Like that just is. And that, you look at how the Lakers are winning in since LeBron went down, essentially, right, over the course of their last like 12 games, where they're not that bad. I know they've lost 2 of 3, and that Houston loss was puzzling because why the hell was Anthony Davis sitting? But he was sitting because they want to win this game, and so that's why we would be fools to leave him off of our player props tonight on those 2 days rest against a team like the Mavs, who are just not going to they're just not it down low, right? We know that. So I agree with you that their defense looked a little bit better right around the time that Luka was going down with that injury that they lost. I believe there was a loss to who did he leave against? Nola, that he lost against, right? He ended up having like 8 assists in the first half, but then he really was just hobbled, had to come out, and obviously he's missed some games since then. But even in that Nola game, as soon as he came out, it's not like we were necessarily headed for an over in that game, but it just slowed down even more in terms of the offensive efficiency once Luka stepped off the floor. And now you're looking at a couple games that are all outside of San Antonio, which I just throw away every San Antonio game essentially that you see. Once you get to that point against them, whatever. But before that, the pace that they play at, especially, it's back to that Dallas pace when Kyrie's not on the team, which is a huge factor for this. So if Kyrie plays alone without Luka, still scared of an under a little bit more. But without both of them, I do agree with you that the Lakers should win this game. And even without both of them, 6 points doesn't really scare me because of how much AD should dominate.
Yeah, we're just talking major correlation based on whether they play or not. The one thing I will say about that Spurs game, though, is Dallas gave up 16 offensive rebounds. And this is a Spurs team that is over the last 3 years, the worst offensive rebounding team in the NBA. So, and now you go up against AD and company, a fresh AD, like you said, 2 days rest. I do think the Lakers offense, you say it's been kind of stagnant, it's been AD dependent. Well, they got D'Angelo Russell back in that Toronto game and scored 122, and then they did that again against NOLA with both those guys out. Those are two, really respectable defenses, and Dallas is not. They're, bottom 5 in sort of most of the numbers that you would need to see for the Lakers to score, including second chance points allowed. So I do think that we could see, because AD got that rest, because they looked ahead, looked past Houston and fell into that trap exactly like the Celtics did, that we see a much closer effort offensively to what we saw in those other games, and that the Lakers do their part, scoring 120-ish, which certainly makes a 227 total pretty low, even if you are dealing with missing one or both of Kairuka.
Maybe we go with a little Rockets victims parlay tonight with those Lakers and Celtics, who most recently are the two most recent teams to lose to those Rockets. Yeah. Like I said in the other video about Boston, can we just maybe make the season 72 games so we don't have to watch the Rockets beat up on a couple of teams at the end of the season? Either way, yeah, I think, like we said, just stay on the lines.com, stay all over these injury reports, make sure you know who's playing tonight, because if one or both of them plays in terms of the Kyrie Luka experience here in Dallas, then you've got to sort of change the way that you bet on this. I personally, like I put in the Discord, hit +6 because I'm just going to bank on them, having those guys in there, or at least one of them, to be able to keep this closer than that, even though it is in LA tonight. So that's all the time we have for you, though, in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we're coming back to you each and every weekday this season. And until we see you next, happy betting.